Welcome to CUTV News Radio, where our hosts Doug Llewellyn and Jim Masters talk to today's top thinkers from all around the world to bring you information, inspiration, and thought-provoking ideas that you can put to use in your personal or professional life right now. Covering a broad range of topics, we dig deep to discover what makes today's top thinkers tick. CUTV News Radio. It's the show where ideas matter. And now, here's today's host, Jim Masters.
We thank you very much for joining us. We are live worldwide on CUTV News Radio. Pleasure to have you with us today. It is 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and we are reaching a global, worldwide audience, which we do with all of our broadcasts here. CUTV News Radio Live as a service, of course, of the award-winning CUTV News. And in addition to broadcasting live, we also archive all of our shows, so you can hear them again on our websites and social media. Our guests tend to take the links and they share them with their colleagues, family, and friends, and on social media as well as their websites. And we also put them on iTunes and Stitcher Radio as well. So there's a multitude of platforms where you can hear our exclusive broadcast series. Very, very happy to welcome somebody who is joining us here for the very first time, special guest, Harriette McDonough. She is the founder of 3 Arms Energy Balancing, where she specializes in cutting-edge energy psychology, psychosensory, and energy balancing techniques. These holistic and organic techniques actually can help people reduce stress, anxiety, trauma, and create more peace within one's life. Harriette's work is the perfect adjunct to traditional psychotherapy to provide a complete healing approach. You know, traditional psychotherapy follows the mechanisms of Newtonian medical models, which is based on the theory that our bodies are machines and can be healed by separating out the problem areas without considering the whole. And unfortunately, traditional psychotherapy has followed this limited view as well. These multi-layers of trauma experienced by many people today in our complex, fast-changing world demands that psychotherapists look beyond just talk therapy and medication. They must broaden their view and healing tool bag to include holistic approaches that explore the discordant energy and spiritual fields of the body, mind, and soul. And that's what our very special guest, Harriette McDonough, does. Her first objective, she says, with her clients who show up at her door in desperate and suffering states is to assure them that they will leave her office with some emotional relief, a renewed sense of hope that there is a holistic path leading to the light at the end of the tunnel. Harriette teaches daily energy balancing exercises as well as meditation and techniques to calm her clients in the next exact moment of distress. She says when someone is having a panic attack at 3 a.m., they need a go-to calming technique that is easy and works fast. Now, energy psychology is based on the premise that all negative emotion is a disruption in our energy field. And Harriette uses cutting-edge techniques to complement traditional talk therapy, such as the emotional freedom technique, EFT, tapping, to quiet ruminating thoughts. And that wonderful technique really is amazing. There's also the Havening technique for PTSD, integrated energy therapy, and Reiki for overall peace, to name a few. And the combination of traditional energy psychology techniques that she uses creates a holistic-based psychotherapy setting to facilitate and reactivate the client's natural ability to restore balance, calm, and well-being into their emotional, physical, and spiritual systems, while helping to move through obstacles such as addictive behavior, limiting beliefs, ancestral wounds, trauma, fear, and self-sabotaging behavior. And there are people who are suffering and dealing with all of those at the same time. We are very honored to welcome to CUTV News Radio Live for the first time, and hopefully we'll chat with her again more, Harriette McDonough. She is, again, amazing. She's based in Garden City, Long Island, New York, And again, 3arms.com is the website, and that's THREE arms.com. Harriette, thank you very much for joining us here on CUTV News Radio. It is a real honor and a real pleasure to have you with us, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Jim. I'm delighted to be here and to be talking about something that is of great passion in my life and work life.
It is a real pleasure and honor to have you here as well. I wanted to make mention for the audience, too, that when you're dealing with clients who have lifelong, deep emotional, body, mind, and spiritual trauma, you also use the set of shamanic-like protocols known as soul detective multidimensional healing tools as well. It's an incredible array of techniques and modalities that you have in your healing tool bag. Harriette, when did you realize that this was your passion? When did you realize you were inspired to do this kind of really deep-level work that touches lives, that impacts lives, that changes lives for the better?
It's interesting that this passion is really something that began in childhood. I know that there are many people who are listening who have had similar experiences as I did as a child, but really didn't discuss it or didn't know that it was unusual. I was having sort of out-of-body experiences as a very small child and sort of observing myself from the ceiling of my bedroom down over myself sleeping. And I thought, well, everybody does that, until I described it to my mother, and she was a bit concerned, to say the least. I had very lucid dreaming, and I always felt that there were some presence in our house, and, some might wonder if that was a ghost or whatever, but I'd like to think that they were more, helpful guides. But this was just a normal experience for me as a child, and I just grew to be very interested in sort of exploring it a bit more. I'm kind of a kid of the 60s, so of course that was a very exploratory decade. And at that time I got interested, that in the 60s and the 70s, got very interested in transcendental meditation. And done that for several decades, and actually had my first Reiki session, which is a hands-on energy healing. It's a Japanese, it's a thousands and thousands year old Japanese hands-on energy healing. So I got
That's incredible,
a little more,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was very much a hobby. And it was part of sort of a self-exploration. And I noticed that, that certainly, again, was happening in the 60s. I worked I did advertising for many years, and then started to do some not-for-profit advertising, and worked with emotional growth therapeutic boarding schools and therapeutic wilderness programs out west. And I observed that they were doing a lot of energy balancing things. They were yoga and meditation, and Reiki was also involved, and tuning forks. And I just thought, wow, this is really cutting edge work. And I thought, well, they're doing a good job, but you know what? I can take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So, it's a little, my family was like, well, you're going to do what? So I thought I'd better get a clinical degree first. So I went back to school a little later in life, got my master's in social work, and then became a clinical social worker, always with the intention of using energy balancing, energy psychology techniques as interventions. I'm probably the only person in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, who has as broad a range of tools in my tool bag that are energy psychology based. And, as you had mentioned, the principle behind that is that all negative emotion is actually a result of a disruption in someone's energy field that's in or around the body. Western medicine doesn't really acknowledge that, doesn't really understand that. It's more Newtonian, it's more, we're sort of machines with separate pieces. But I am taking more of an Einsteinian approach, which is that all matter is energy and we're all connected. Really in group think and energetically we're all connected. I mean, all you have to do is walk into a room where unfortunately somebody may be having an argument or is very angry and you kind of walk out of there slimed. And that is sort of a perfect example of how the energy can stick to your field. So my techniques are all about clearing the disruption in the energy fields. So once that's cleared, then negative thinking and negative emotions can actually calm down. So it's a very holistic approach in a very real way.
And isn't that great that is the result, too? I mean, we are living in a world that's ramped up technologically, internet, social media, everybody's sort of arguing and yelling and fighting and nobody's listening and everybody's talking without listening. So for some people who are even more, I mean, for any of us it could be nuts, but for some people they process it where it's extremely overwhelming for them and almost debilitating, and they withdraw and they don't participate and they feel attacked and depressed and so your work and these strategies and these methods and modalities and techniques can be incredibly invaluable for any of us, but especially for those who are really looking around saying, what's my purpose, what's going on here, and the world is spinning around me out of control, right?
Yeah, what's interesting about that discussion and sort of the general environment that we're living in right now, which is highly stressed, is that we're in the meridian, in the acupuncture system. Again, I'm working in 3 different energy fields, kind of the biofield, or, we've heard the term aura around the body, which is about 3 to 5 feet. Then there's the chakra system, which are these spinning wheels. If you could see them, they're these spinning wheels that move up the middle of the body, at the top of the head, the bottom of the feet. And that's what yoga tends to balance, and meditation balances that as well. But the third thing is the meridian system, which is the acupuncture system. That has energy pathways that the Chinese brilliantly laid out, 10,000 years ago. And it's that particular system that I think I work in the most, because in the Western world we're blocked in our thinking. We have limited beliefs, we start to ruminate over and over and over, and unfortunately, the news media kind of works on that, wants to keep us in a fight, flight, freeze state, which is a very specific meridian in the acupuncture system, and it's known as the triple energizer. And the stress, when somebody comes to me with high stress, depression, OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior and thinking, or they're having panic attacks, I know that their triple energizer, their fight, flight, freeze mechanism within their energy system is on such high alert, and it's part of our instinctive body. It's really part of the reptilian brain of our animal body, and it leaves us in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And it's like driving a car hard all day long, putting it in the garage, and at the end of the day, and running it all night. So what happens? We run out of gas, we run out of oil, the parts start to break down. And the term is called sedating the triple energizer. Unless the triple energizer, the fight, flight, freeze mechanism, gets calmed down or sedated or told to it's safe and you can let go, we just run our bodies and organs into the ground. The gallbladder, the pancreas, the liver, everything, when we are in that kind of adrenal state, what happens is all energy is pulled from every single organ of the body except the heart. And we are in a constant state of stress, shows up in cholesterol and heart issues. So ultimately, that is the first thing I'm always looking for when somebody arrives, whether it's depression or whether it's panic attacks. It's still the triple energizer that is just not calming down. One of the best, most comprehensive tools that I use, which is really a group of many protocols, is called Soul Detective. And it's multidimensional healing tools. So it was developed by an energy psychology expert by the name of Dr. Barbara Stone. It's very shamanic in its nature. So I am a shaman as well, but in my Garden City office, I'm not sure I'm going to pull out a feather and and sage and start burning it. And it's a little too out there for even the tri-state area. But Soul Detective protocols, I know, you can imagine, are very, very appropriate for a clinical office. But what it does is it has energetic diagnostic approach, and then once we diagnose what the interference patterns are to the client's life goals, now I've got the protocols. I can find out where it's stuck in their system, and we start running the protocols to clear it. And the best news about that is that now the client and the system and the triple energizer can sedate and calm down. Now they get to hear their own inner voice. They have a sense of their own free will, and they actually become more accountable for thoughts, beliefs that they have, their belief system about who they are and where they are in the world, how they interact. It is now under their control. It is one of the most exciting. That's why we're doing this today, because I know that it relieves tremendous amount of unnecessary suffering.
And that's really a beautiful thing when you're able to do that. How do your clients respond to your approach? And again, we're talking about three arms energy balancing.
Well, what's interesting is that the energy psychology and the Soul Detective protocols enter a different emotional door for the client. Again, we're coming in from the idea that there's an energetic trapped emotions going on in the system that, interestingly, may be from their present lifetime and, unfortunately, some rough experiences in their childhood. But Soul Detective goes much, much further. We're now looking beyond this life. Even if my client is having trouble submitting to the idea that there are, past lives, I would also then look for ancestral wounds that may have been passed down through the generations. Science spends a lot of time, obviously, doing a lot of work on physical DNA. Well, I would submit that there is an emotional and energetic DNA that is passed down from parents to children. And one of the exciting things about the arrival of new generations is as they hold their center and they can stay calm, they can now start to unpack and disentangle themselves from generations of inherited fear or generations of inherited limiting beliefs. What's a perfect example of that is I have worked with a lot of Latinas and Latinos who come from a culture that does believe in curses and hexes. Now, that's not a typical Western view, but it is a very real thing for the Latino culture. And that can get passed down as an ancestral wound from generation to generation. And there can be a powerlessness that comes with it. Like, I guess I can't change this. Mom says, well, there's the family curse, and there it is, and there's nothing we can do about it. I just think we're in a very, very exciting healing time where these kind of protocols, everyone's kind of brave enough to talk about these protocols, and to anyone who is reaching out to say, no, I'm going to hold my free will and my power in this lifetime. Soul Detective can help clear those ancestral wounds. And again, the beauty of it is not only for this generation, but it clears it for the past generations. So Soul Detective works very well with any of the cultural beliefs that are prevalent in a particular client
Absolutely.
that's coming to me. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I guess the therapeutic process sort of has its own dynamic and its own minefields from time to time. And this energy psychology that we're talking about sort of kind of dials all that stuff back in a way, right?
Yes, it does. It again allows me and other healers to look at the client's issues or problems as a multi-dimensional diamond, and you can look at different sides of it. And if I have a client who comes in who tends to be really stuck in their head, and they want to understand things intellectually, then I have wonderful protocols to make sure I meet my client where they are. And even if they're doing traditional psychotherapy, I encourage them to continue to do that. I offer wonderful adjunct techniques to assist that kind of processing. If someone has a very limiting belief, and I actually have several therapists that send me their clients for maybe a month and then I send them back, if they have a limiting belief that they observed their parents as having a less than loving relationship as they were growing up, and that's what they've observed, and they have a limiting belief that they don't know what a good partner looks like, what a loving relationship allowing growth on both sides looks like, because they didn't witness it as a child. Soul Detective, through something called thought field therapy, which is really the original tapping, can unpack that limiting belief and any objections within the client's system to releasing that limiting belief, because sometimes they don't know where they're going to go from there. But by clearing it first, it's like cleaning out a closet first, and then you can put back what you want. So now we put back the belief about the relationship they do envision, they do think. And I always ask the question, what would be too good to be true? And I kind of get a blank stare from clients at first. I don't know, because they're so used to talking about what doesn't work, what's been wrong. So once we clear the emotional closet energetically, now this newfound energy, this newfound free will can be spent on what would be too good to be true.
Right.
And it usually gets them to start to fantasize without any restriction. And our thoughts are powerful, as we know about the law of attraction. What you think about comes about.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. What you think about comes about. So, as we're talking about, and I can't believe we only have 5 minutes left. Hopefully, we can have you back because there's so much to talk about. But it is fascinating that you can spend years and years in therapy, almost looking under every rock, but your problem could be found in a previous lifetime. Where else might you look?
Well, again, Soul Detective is such a powerful set of tools for that, because we are looking multidimensionally. Of course, I'm going to ask them to look physically right now, make sure that they go to a medical doctor and make sure that there isn't something specifically physical going on. Then we would start to look at any kind of emotional trauma they may have had this lifetime. And if that doesn't seem to be giving us what we need to know, then I'll start to move into other dimensions. Again, the idea of ancestral wounds or past lives. But there's really one other area that's it can be a little dicey. If someone is having substance abuse issues, let's say someone is having is really self-medicating because of trauma that they've had in their lives, and they're really just trying to numb their wounds. The Soul Detective tools will look below all the complex multi-layers of trauma and the vulnerability. Again, looking hereditary first, and then who are they hanging with? What kind of places are they going? Probably some unsavory-looking bars. And they might be having some kind of minor or major blackouts. And from an energetic standpoint, if someone's substance abuse is increasing at a sudden rate, their personality has taken on another layer that is not really recognizable, I am now going to look to see if they haven't picked up a spiritual virus in any of the not-so-great places they've been hanging out with, or the people they've been hanging out with that are very negative. Or I might even look for an earthbound spirit. So that's a little out there, but when someone... when someone goes into Alcoholics Anonymous, let's say, and they're in a program and they are working so hard and they're in recovery, but they can't hold it. They go into some kind of relapse. This is where I can be incredibly helpful to clear their field so that they have their free will and their own self-accountability back.
You're amazing at what you do, Harriette McDonough. We are so honored to have you with us of Three Arms Energy Balancing. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and I want to make sure that folks do get to that website. I can't believe we've run out of time, but hopefully we can have you back and explore more.
I'd love to come back.
Much more to much more to talk about. Three Arms Energy Balancing. Visit 3arms, that's THREEARMS.com. Harriette, thank you very much for joining us. It was a real pleasure, and we appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jim. I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. We look forward to it as well. Thank you for joining us, everybody. This is Jim Masters, your host. Thank you for your time. Until next time.